unless we considerably change the learning activity. In 2013, Richard Colata, the former director of the US Department of Education's Office of Educational Technology, made a TEDx talk. And in this talk, he talks about the trend of simply digitizing activities. And he said, "My fear is that if we continue on this trajectory, which is simply digitizing, very soon we will have successfully replicated in digital format exactly all of the traditional teaching methods that we use today." So Grace Mary Hopper would definitely not be happy to hear this. This is not progress. Simply digitizing old practices or replacing older technology with newer technology will not improve our ability to teach English or prepare students for the future. So once again, we are reminded of the need to be mindful in our use of technology. And to summarize very clearly, it's not the technology, it's the teacher's ability to use the technology that is important. And to do that, we're going to need to look at our second framework. In 2020, Royce Kimmons and his colleagues at Brigham Young University suggested that technology can replace, amplify, and transform learning activities. Replace is what we have already talked about, when a teacher uses technology to digitize the learning activity or swap one technology with another. An example is, rather than have students handwrite an opinion essay, a teacher gets their students to use a word processor or a computer. So the essay is basically the same, but the technology has digitized what would have been handwritten. Amplify is when the teacher changes an activity to improve the learning outcome. An example, maybe we get our students to write a blog entry, and with their opinions, here they can add things like photos. Okay, other students can respond and leave comments on the blog, so it gives another level of interaction. Transform is when the teacher uses technology to do an entirely new activity that wouldn't be possible without the technology. So an example here would be, rather than typing an essay or creating a blog post, the teacher could get their students to create an edited video. So not only is the product different, but so is the process that students go through to create it. And in this example, students can practice the same target language, the grammar and vocabulary, and the same language functions, which is giving and justifying opinions, as in the essay, but in a technology-enhanced activity. So the RAT framework shows us that beyond simply replacing pen and paper activities, we can amplify, make them more effective, or we can even transform them into something new. Kimmons and all go on to talk about interactivity in technology use, student activity. So first we have passive, and this is when technology is used to deliver information to students, but it doesn't really require any response or interaction. In a passive learning environment, students are watching and listening to language. They're asked to absorb and remember what is presented to them. But keep in mind here that passive activity, according to this framework, does not mean that the students are doing nothing. The teacher can make sure that students are listening, learning, and active in their efforts to comprehend English. An example would be a student watches a video or attends a webinar lecture. Next, interactive. This is when students need to respond or take action. Students become active participants. It's very important to provide students with opportunities to use the language. Online activities that give students a chance to interact with you and one another afford students these opportunities. So an example here would be students watch a webinar lecture and they interact by making comments either verbally or in the text chat box. So today, what we're doing in this hybrid session, I'm asking you questions and you are interacting with me through our facilitator, Chi. Finally, we have creative. This is when students use technology to create a product. Encouraging students to use English to create a product allows them to explore new uses of language. And online technologies and apps and things like that, they make it very easy now for our students to create products that they can share with the teacher, with their classmates, and with the world. An example, or some examples here, students can create digital presentations, infographics, digital stories, blogs, websites, edited videos. The possibilities really are endless now. I want to say here that this framework is not suggesting that by moving upwards from P to C will produce more successful learning outcomes. We're simply being mindful of the type of activity we are asking our students to do. So each of these three interactions has its place. We need all of them.
Will?
So now we've learned about pick. Yes?
Will. Before you move on to the metrics, let me maybe reinforce on the key messages that you mentioned earlier to the audience. Sure. So that they can understand. So you can see that actually Will presented a framework that is called the Big Rat framework, right? And has explained what each of these means. And if you pay a closer attention to this framework, you will see that actually the PIC, passive, interactive, creative, refers more to how students interact with technology. Do they interact with technology in a passive way, interactive way, or creative way? That when you move on to RAD, it's more on the teacher side. So how teachers use technology in the classroom. They use technology to replace a traditional teaching activity or to amplify it or to really transform it. So now Will is going to present a matrix where you can use the PIC-RAD in a more effective way when you teach English. So over to you, Will.
Thank you, Chi. Thanks for clarifying that. So, yeah, when we look at the PIC-RAD matrix, as Chi said, if we start with the vertical axis, this is, you can see your students' technology use. This is about the student, as Chi said, as passive, interactive, as creative. And along the bottom, we can see this is the teacher's use of technology, whether they're replacing, amplifying, or transforming the activity. So let's illustrate that with some examples. So we can use this presentation of VIC2022 to give context. So right now I'm using teleconferencing software and a digital projector to project slides onto a screen in another country. I'm not writing on a blackboard in the same room as you. You, the audience, are looking at the slides and listening to my talk. So how would this be categorized? Well, this would be categorized as passive and replace. So class in replaces me being there in person, and asking you to listen is passive. Let's try a couple more. So this time, I'll give you another example, okay? And we're still talking about this VIC2022 presentation. So I am on class in Singapore using teleconferencing software to show you my slides, and you are in Vietnam at a live conference. Right now, I'm going to ask you a question. And I want you to give me an answer. So I'd like you to tell Chi, just shout out your answer. Where do you think this would be on the PIC-RAD matrix? Okay, so I'm in Singapore presenting to you. Okay, and you are now answering my question, which is where does this activity fall on the PIC-RAD matrix by communicating with Chi? So just shout out, is it PR? Is it PA? Is it CA? Is it CR? What do you think? Shout out. Don't be shy. Don't worry. It doesn't matter if you get it wrong. Have a go.
What do you think? What we are doing right now in the room, where is it on the matrix? Replace?
So are you being passive? Are you interacting? Replace, yeah?
Yes, people are saying yes.
Are you interacting?
Yes.
Okay, so you got it. So this is IR, so it's interactive and replace, okay? I'm replacing technology, class in instead of being there, but I'm asking you to interact with me. Okay, next. If instead of asking a few of you to shout out your answers, if I got you to log on to an online poll, okay, if I gave you a QR code, we all logged on and everyone gave their opinion. So all of you told me what you thought the answer was. Then we would have a full data set. We could analyze that data set, okay? Where would that be on this matrix? What do we think? So now, am I replacing or am I amplifying through the use of technology?
Placing,
So by using an
amplifying.
online amplifying, right? Okay, and are you interacting or are you creating something?
Interacting, yes. I'm overhearing people saying interacting.
Perfect. So there we go. So this activity would be interactive and it would be amplify. Okay, finally, one more. If we had more time, if this was a workshop and I asked you to work in groups to discuss where these activities should go on the PICRAP matrix, and then I asked you to record your answers as a video with an explanation, a justification, and then upload the presentations of your ideas to a website, maybe something like Padlet, where other students could watch and leave comments. Where would this be on the matrix? So now I'm asking you to make something, and I'm asking you to put it on Padlet. Where would this be? This would be right up at the top. This would be a creative activity, and it would be transformed through the use of technology. So the creativity here comes from the way you present your ideas in the video presentation. So sometimes there might be some confusion between amplify and transform, and I think that there is a grey area here. But generally speaking, amplify means that we're doing a similar task that has more benefits, whereas transform means that the task is now completely different in some way. A couple more things I'd like to say about the PICRAP matrix. Firstly, should we be aiming to avoid some of these boxes and aim for others? Do we think that some of these are better than other ones? Well, the answer is no. All of the squares in the PICRAP matrix are beneficial. They all have their time and their place. We need variety and we need balance in our classes, regardless of whether we are using technology. But one thing to keep in mind is, if all of the technology-based activities you do are over here on the left, if all of your activities are replace activities, then this tells you that you're not using technology in ways that will really impact student learning and improve learning outcomes. So it's something to be aware of. This is an awareness-raising matrix. So here's an example of an activity from a reading lesson in our adult program, Voices. This is the elementary level. And the unit is about people and places. So this lesson is about when cultures mix. So let's take a look at this activity that uses technology to mindfully transform and enhance the lesson. So this lesson and unit provide plenty of opportunities for students to discuss culture and other people's cultures. So if we look at this warmer activity, we can see that students are going to discuss famous food, music, film, art, or whatever from their country. And then they're going to talk about what things are popular in their country. So these activities work much better if you have a mix of nationalities in your class. So what happens if you are teaching a monocultural class of students from the same country? Well, you could try Mystery Skype. So this activity requires finding a teacher who teaches a similar class to yours in another country. Then the two teachers schedule a time when both classes are learning at the same time, so they can connect via Skype or Zoom or ClassIn or whatever, and communicate with each other. The mystery is that the two classes do not know where they are from. In the activity, each class, they take it in turns to ask yes, no questions to guess where the other class is from. You can see here that the warm-up questions here could be used as inspiration to help figure out where the other class is from. We talk about food, we could ask, do people in your country eat a lot of pho noodles? Do people in your country eat a lot of kimchi or sushi or fish and chips or whatever it might be? So we could use these questions to help us with the yes-no question. When both classes have managed to guess where the other one is from, they then share information about their countries and their cultures, perhaps using other activities in the book, such as this one. Here, they give recommendations for people visiting your country. So if my class is from Singapore and yours is for Vietnam, my class can tell your class when's the best time to visit Singapore, what food they should try, what they should do here, and vice versa. Okay, so let's now apply that mystery Skype activity to the PIC-RAT matrix to see if the original activity of pair work with someone in the class, remember the original activity was just discussed with your partner, how has this been transformed by technology? So students in mystery Skype, they interact with students in another country. They have a real reason to communicate, to find out where they are from. And then they're going to share about their own culture. So this activity is interactive and it's transformed. Now let's apply mystery Skype to the 4E framework to see if it meets the 4 goals. So here I've put these questions in the past tense because we've already done the activity. So number 1, did mystery Skype, did it unlock new activities? But yes, for sure it did, because students were able to interact with strangers from a new culture and share insights into their own, which they couldn't do in a monocultural class. So definitely it enabled new activities. Extend. Did this activity extend flexibility of study options? Well, actually, no, it didn't. In fact, to do this activity, students are quite limited. The teacher needs to find a class in another country that has a class at the same time, and then it needs to be live. It can't be a recording. So next is engage. Were hands, hearts, and minds engaged? I think this is a big yes, because behaviorally, the task is exciting and different, and I believe motivating. Emotionally, students get to share about their culture and things that are important to them. And cognitively, students have to form questions and ask the right ones, which leads to elevate. Did they develop critical thinking skills, analysis, collaboration with their classmates, and so on? Yes, they did. So this activity achieves 3 out of 4 goals. Okay, so time to wrap up. So we've looked at these 2 useful frameworks. So let's see. I'll just remind you of what they actually mean. So PIC-RAT is basically a tool that categorizes activity type. It raises our awareness and it makes us mindful about how we are using technology and to do what. It measures 2 things: how technology impacts or changes a task, which is replace, amplify, and transform, and the type of student interaction. Is it passive, interactive, or creative? It also helps teachers plan and keep track of the type of activities they are using and reminds us to aim for balance and to attempt a variety of types of activity that will improve learning outcomes. The 4 E's. This framework reminds us of the goals of using technology: enable, extend, engage, and elevate. It helps us to question our use of technology by reminding us of the goals of technology, and we also use it to check the validity of the activities we have planned. So my advice is to use both. Step 1, use PIC-RAT to help you plan a variety of activities, and step 2, use the 4 E's to check their validity. As an exit ticket, we don't really have very much time, but I'd like you to think about something from this session, okay, that you found interesting, useful, or will help you plan your lessons using technology in future. And maybe, Chi, can we have a volunteer just to say something that they can remember from this session, something that they found interesting, useful, or will help them plan their lessons in the future? Can we get one volunteer?
Yeah, I think, are you confident people will remember what you've just said so far?
I'm fairly confident. I've repeated myself several times.
Will, this is a reflection question, so I think we should give people maybe 20 seconds for them to
Okay,
think.
all right, okay. We don't have much
back.
time, but yes, okay, give it, yeah.
It's okay, it's the last section, and people will leave soon.